Chapter 1. Sele. You know Grandpa loves you the most. Before he passes, he just wants to see you married. If nothing else, just treat it like a performance. Dad. I agree to go home for the arranged marriage. On a quiet autumn night, Selena cut off the long-winded speech on the phone. Her voice was flat and emotionless. Henry was silent for a long time before he sighed. I've been through it all. I'm your father. After all, if he won't even introduce you to his parents, how could he be a good man? You'll understand when you hit a wall out there. I just don't want you to suffer. Selena stared at the endless string of intimate photos in her inbox, tears welling up in her eyes. I'll go back and get married in a month. That's all I needed to hear. Oh, right, since you're in H City, make sure to call Jonathan, your little uncle, home too. He's looked after you these past few years. It's only right he witnesses your wedding. The familiar name stabbed her ears. Selena remained silent for a long time before shaking her head. He has someone he likes. He probably won't have time. Someone he likes? That rascal, when did he start dating? Why don't I know anything? Selena opened her mouth. Before she could speak, the door opened. Selena swiftly hung up and closed her laptop. Looking up, her gaze met Jonathan Sue's, who reeked of alcohol. But his expression didn't look good. Didn't I say, don't mention our relationship to your family for now? I didn't. And from now on, she never would again. Selena lowered her head, swallowing the unspoken words with bitterness. Jonathan's expression softened a bit. He loosened his tie, walked over, and sat beside her, pulling her into his arms with practiced ease. It's not that I don't want you to say anything. It's just, you know your dad treats me like a brother. If he finds out I've taken his precious daughter, won't he kill me? He said while rubbing his face against hers, warm breath spreading across her neck. But Selena caught the unfamiliar scent of another woman's perfume. Thinking of the photos she'd just seen, she suppressed her nausea and pushed him away, her voice hoarse. Not tonight. Did I go too hard last night and hurt you? Did you put on any medicine? Let me see. Jonathan assumed she wasn't feeling well and reached for her dress. But Selena firmly held his hands. I'm fine. No need to look. Go take a shower first. She kept her head down, trying hard to hide the sting. To Jonathan, though, it just looked like she was shy. We've been together 5 years. You're going to be my wife sooner or later. There's nothing on you I haven't seen. Why are you still shy? Selena only lowered her head further, watching him head into the bathroom. Her gaze grew dim. The one he liked, the one he wanted to marry, was it ever really her? The sound of water echoed from the bathroom. Selena opened her laptop. The screen lit up, and hundreds of photos flooded her vision. The man who just held her and talked about marrying her was holding another girl in the photos, even more intimately, grinning like she'd never seen before. She received the email a week ago, and in it, one sentence filled with provocation. I'm coming back. Guess how long he'll keep you around? The message seemed cryptic. Selena eventually dug around and found out that Jonathan had once loved a girl he could never have. At 20, he gave her everything, all his firsts. He thought they'd be together forever. But the year he loved her most, she left him and went abroad. Since then, Jonathan became a playboy. He started disappearing at night, changing partners every week, until 5 years ago, when Selena arrived in H City and was entrusted to his care by her father. After that, he changed completely. He treated her with care and devotion. 3 months later, they naturally became a couple. Everyone thought Jonathan had finally changed for love, that Selena had made an exception in his life. Selena also believed she was the one and only, until those photos appeared. Looking at the face in the photo, 70% similar to her own, Selena finally understood. There was never any exception or true affection. It was simply that she looked too much like the one he truly loved. Being with her let him deceive himself that he had never been apart from that girl. The jewelry brand he founded, Only Love O, was also for her. Only Love O. Only love Olivia. This was how he told the world who truly had his heart. Yet in front of her, he hid behind the excuse of being friends with her father, hiding their relationship in the shadows for 5 whole years. Love or not, it was clear as day. Selena's lashes trembled, her heart aching. Then, a friend request popped up on her computer screen. The note was short and direct. Hello, Miss Bai. I'm your fiancé. along with a 9,900 yuan red packet transfer. At the same time, a message popped up on Jonathan's phone screen. Jonathan, like you, I've never forgotten the past. It was the most beautiful memory of my life. Selena's hand trembled. She didn't hesitate any longer and accepted the friend request on WeChat. Since this relationship had been wrong from the very beginning, it should end as soon as possible. Jonathan, in half a month, I'll become another man's bride. From then on, you and I will have nothing to do with each other. Chapter 2. The next day, Selena was woken up by the sound of a phone ringing. Jonathan Su, who never got up early, was already dressed and holding his phone, seemingly confirming a time with someone. Don't worry, I've got it under control. I won't be late. He moved quietly, clearly not intending to wake Selena. But when he turned around, his eyes met hers. Why are you up so early? There was a brief flicker of discomfort on his face. After hanging up, he picked up a red tie, one Selena had never seen before, and held it up to his neck, adjusting it more carefully than he ever did with multi-million-dollar contracts. But in the past, he never cared about things like this. Selena silently clenched the bedsheet under her fingers. You're going out today? Yeah. Jonathan's good mood was obvious. He leaned in close and handed her the tie, not noticing the shift in her expression. Meeting someone. Be good. Help me with this. Selena looked at the red tie, her eyes darkening. Didn't you used to dislike red? There was a time I didn't, but I like it now. He looked at her, smiling even more brightly. Didn't expect my baby to pay so much attention. You even remember these little things. Selena didn't respond, just gave a bitter smile. She remembered clearly, in all those photos from the email, Olivia wore this kind of bright, bold red the most. Her chest felt tight. Selena sped up her hands. Once she finished tying the knot and stepped back, Jonathan's phone buzzed again. He glanced at the screen, the smile on his lips deepening, fingers flying over the screen in response. Then he looked back up, his eyes full of delight. Baby, I'll be back late today. Don't wait up for me. I'll bring you those crab roe buns you love. He talked while walking to the door, but just as he reached it, he ran into a delivery guy. Jonathan frowned slightly in hesitation. Selena had already taken the package from the guy. I ordered a cake. Jonathan frowned deeper. I've told you, too much cream isn't good for your health. Don't do it again. Selena caught every tiny shift in his expression, but he seemed completely genuine, just annoyed, not even curious enough to ask more. He answered a call and hurried out the door. Just before the elevator closed, his phone accidentally switched to speakerphone. A buddy's teasing voice came through. You really haven't changed. Huh? Every time Olivia comes back to China, you race to be the first to pick her up. Selena's heart clenched. The words stuck in her throat. So that's why he woke up early today, why he dressed up so meticulously, and why he forgot, completely, what day it was today. Selena placed a hand over her flat stomach, swallowing back the heartache. She took the cake and a newly bought toy and went alone to a graveyard. The thin clouds filtered the sunlight, falling quietly onto a solitary gravestone. Beneath it lay the first child she and Jonathan had. A few years ago, the child came without warning, stayed in her womb until the 4th month, and left just as suddenly. She still remembered the day she lost the baby, how Jonathan held her in the hospital, eyes red from crying. He promised her forever, slipped a ring onto her finger, swore over and over that he'd never let her down. When they chose this cemetery plot, he had said, every year, we'll come to celebrate our baby's birthday, mark how he's growing older. He made the promises, and now, he broke them. Selena tilted her head up, laughing bitterly. She couldn't even tell anymore which of his words were ever real. On the way back, Selena's phone buzzed with messages from an unknown number. She opened the first one, a third-person photo, Olivia and Jonathan standing apart, surrounded by people urging him to give her flowers. That massive bouquet of red roses, so fresh, so vibrant, he had never once given her. Of course not. Roses are for the one you love. She was nothing more than a disposable stand-in. As dusk settled, Selena returned home. Jonathan wasn't back yet. While there was still light, she began to clean. Couple rings, jackets, slippers, lucky charms, All little things she'd bought for them over the years. Jonathan had never used any of them. Every time she brought something out and asked him to use it with her, he would just hold her with a sigh. Baby, these things damage my image. People will laugh. But in those photos Olivia sent, everything they wore matched. Down to their shoes. He even took childish, filtered selfies with her. Selena's chest ached dully. She dragged all the boxes downstairs and, without hesitation, dumped everything into the trash bin. Now, there would be nothing around to ruin his image. He wouldn't have to look at her with that resigned expression anymore. Selena watched the sanitation workers load the stuff onto the garbage truck. Before she could turn back, she was suddenly pulled into someone's arms. Worn out from throwing stuff away? Silly girl, why not wait for me to come back and make me do it? Jonathan's tone was still gentle, like he loved her to the very core. But the scent of another woman on him stung Selena's eyes red. It was just trash. She didn't lie. To him, weren't those things trash? Otherwise, he would have noticed how much was missing from the apartment as soon as he got back. Only she had foolishly believed she was building a warm little home for the two of them. In the end, it had all been a cruel joke. Jonathan, oblivious, only realized she'd put on makeup once they got back inside. You went out today? Why so dressed up? Who did you meet? His tone carried unmistakable possessiveness. Selena stared at a message from a friend on her phone, a comforting reminder that even her friend remembered today was the baby's death anniversary. But Jonathan had forgotten completely. The second hand on the wall clock ticked away steadily. After a few seconds of silence, Selena lifted her phone and held it in front of him. I went to celebrate the birthday of the baby who never got to be born. Chapter 3. Jonathan visibly froze at her words. He quickly pulled out his phone and opened his calendar. September 21st was marked in red with a note, special date. But who was it for? Olivia's return? Or their baby's birthday? Baby. I'm sorry. He pulled Selena into his arms in a panic. Eyes filled with guilt, and not a trace of it seemed fake. There's still time, baby. Let's go now, let's celebrate our child's birthday together. Jonathan hurriedly put his jacket back on and rushed to take Selena out. On the way, he ordered a cake and bought toys. Selena told him several times it wasn't necessary. But Jonathan insisted, Sele, that's our child, even if he never made it into this world. I don't want him thinking his father didn't want him. There was a piercing determination in his eyes. Selena looked away and said nothing more, though her clenched fists kept tightening. To save time, Jonathan chose a cake shop on the way to the cemetery. The whole ride there, he kept calling the shop, rushing them. Once they finally left the city and reached the store, a call stopped Jonathan in his tracks. Selena paused, watching him pull out his phone. When he saw the caller ID, his hand instinctively moved to decline the call, but then he hesitated, turned around, and stepped aside to answer it. Whatever was said on the other end made Jonathan's face harden. He turned to leave, remembering Selena. He frowned, clearly conflicted, as if facing some insurmountable dilemma. Baby, there's an urgent issue at work I have to handle. Wait for me here at the cake shop, just 1 hour. I'll be back in 1 hour. Without waiting for a response, he got in the car and drove off. The tires stirred up dust and leaves from the roadside. Selena watched the car disappear down the road, then let out a bitter laugh she couldn't hold back. She knew what the urgent issue was. It was about Olivia. Anything to do with her always became a top priority. But what did she and their baby count for in his eyes? What were those words he'd just spoken even worth? Selena fought back the sting in her eyes and pushed open the door to the cake shop. The clerk hurriedly handed her the cake. Just finished, didn't go overtime. Selena forced a bitter smile. She looked down at the cake, with 3 cute fondant figurines Jonathan had specifically requested. Her heart twisted with complicated emotions. In the end, she chose to sit on the steps at the store's entrance. This might be the last time their family was ever together. Selena told herself, let this be the ending to years of foolishness. Jonathan said 1 hour, but Selena waited from dusk till nightfall, until all the toys he'd ordered earlier were delivered to the store. By the time her phone showed 10 p.m., he still hadn't come. Selena's stiff fingers moved, dialing his number. It rang for a long time before it connected. Her voice, rough from the wind, was barely audible. Jonah. Ah, a girl? You must be. Jonathan's little girlfriend, right? Sorry. I've got a fever, and Jonathan's been busy taking care of me since he brought me to the hospital. He's still here. Do you need something? It was the first time Selena had clearly heard Olivia's voice. So gentle, yet every word claimed him as her own. So, was he even coming back? Selena's hand ached from the tight grip on the cake box strings. Then came Jonathan's pampering voice from the background. You're not feeling well. So why are you still looking at your phone? I'm staying here tonight. Not going anywhere. Close your eyes and rest. Click. Her phone died. Battery drained. Shut off automatically. Behind her, the cake shop had gone dark and closed for the night. Selena stood alone in the darkness. A passing clerk finally noticed her and frowned. Your boyfriend's still not here? It's hard to get a cab this far out. And there might be rain later. It's dangerous for a girl to be out this late. Want to call him again? No need. Thank you. Selena moved her stiff fingers. A vibration. One unread message. A stranger had sent her a photo. Warm lights illuminated the scene on the screen. The man she had waited all night for was resting at the side of a hospital bed. Eyes closed, but still tightly holding hands with the woman in the bed. Beneath the photo was a line of overt provocation. He's exhausted. He won't be coming back tonight. He lied to her again. Selena stood frozen, her hand trembling for so long it went numb. After the shop clerk left, she finally turned, dumped the cake and toys into the trash bin. She only hoped that in the future, Jonathan would never regret the choice he made today. Chapter 4. The autumn rain fell without end. Selena's phone had died, and she couldn't even book a ride. She walked home through the rain all night, her feet covered in painful blisters. Jonathan, just as she expected, didn't return. The rain finally stopped early the next morning. That was when Jonathan's Sue came back. He stepped in quietly, clearly trying not to make a sound, but when he looked up, his eyes met Selena's as she sat silently on the sofa. His sneaky demeanor froze for a moment. Why are you up so early today? It wasn't early. She hadn't slept all night. Selena laughed coldly in her heart. Her gaze slowly moved from his head to his feet. The clothes were different from yesterday's. There was makeup on his neck, foundation, likely to cover something up. And still, he lied to her. Work got busy last night. Something came up last minute. I had to pull an all-nighter. You didn't wait too long for me, right? No. Selena caught the bit of red he failed to fully conceal on his neck. Her nails dug sharply into her palm. Jonathan noticed something was off, but assumed she was just upset about last night. He stepped forward and pulled her into his arms. Affectionate and clingy. Don't be mad, okay? Once things calm down, we'll throw a big birthday party for our baby. I promise, I'll clear my schedule and spend the entire day with you. Does that sound good? Once things calm down, and how long would that take? Selena looked at him wordlessly, watching him tell one lie after another with a straight face. The eyes that once looked at her with love now held only an empty calm. Jonathan looked at her and, for some reason, felt a sharp pang in his chest. A deep panic of losing something gripped him unexpectedly. He couldn't help but hug her tighter. Baby, don't be upset. You always said you wanted to try going to a bar, right? I've got some friends gathering tonight. Come with me. I'll introduce you to everyone. Would that make you happy? If she had heard this half a month ago, Selena would have been overjoyed, clinging to him with delight. But back then, he never wanted to take her to bars, never even thought about introducing her to his friends. Every time she brought it up, he dodged with vague excuses. Now that she was ready to leave him, now he offered it himself. Funny how life turns. Jonathan didn't think she'd say no. He turned around and sent the invite in his group chat, setting the time and place. 8 p.m. Green Fruit Club. Jonathan was a regular there. The moment he stepped out of the car, a staff member came to welcome him. Selena wore the white dress Jonathan had insisted she wear before they left, walking with him to the private booth. Under the strobing lights, she could make out a few familiar faces. Well, you've been hiding her for so long, and now you've finally brought her out. Someone eagerly raised a glass to toast Selena. Jonathan quickly blocked it with one hand. He gently pulled her into his arms, raising a brow, acting the perfect boyfriend. She's still young. Put that drink away. Don't scare her. Jonathan, A voice cut in. Jonathan frowned and looked up. Olivia stood in the crowd. His lips, curved with pride just a moment ago, instantly flattened. Olivia acted like she didn't see anything, casually bumping his shoulder. I heard you brought your little girlfriend out to meet people today. I got curious and wanted to see for myself. You're not going to turn me away, are you? Her tone was light, but her eyes were deep with teasing and ambiguous affection as she looked at Jonathan. His gaze suddenly turned cold. Scanning the room, the once lively group fell silent, everyone looking away, avoiding eye contact. The atmosphere dropped several degrees. Who told you to come here dressed like that? Jonathan's voice was cold, completely ignoring Selena's presence. It carried a possessiveness and frustration he didn't even seem aware of. After knowing him for 5 years, it was the first time Selena saw him lose composure like this in public, and it was all because of Olivia's bold, provocative outfit. Olivia didn't flinch. So what? You used to control me. Sure, but now? What right do you have? Still think you can lecture me? She swirled the wine in her glass, ignoring the fury in Jonathan's eyes, then turned to Selena. Hi, little sister. Nice to meet you. I'm Olivia, Jonathan's former, close friend. She paused deliberately, her smiling eyes sweeping over Jonathan. Selena's chest tightened. Olivia continued brightly, taking Selena's hand like an old acquaintance. I've heard people say you look like me. I always thought, how similar could we be? But now that I see you, they weren't wrong. You've seen me in a white dress, right? From the side. Your look tonight is exactly what I wore 5 years ago. Chapter 5. Is that so? Selena looked expressionlessly at Jonathan. His arm around her waist tightened. Maybe he just remembered the closet full of white dresses he'd bought her over the years. Selena had never hated the color white so much, or this particular dress on her body. Before Jonathan could bruise her with his grip, she pushed him away and casually sat down somewhere else. Jonathan blinked, the usual careless look in his eyes returning. From then on, it was like Selena didn't exist. This wasn't her gathering, it was clearly a party among their inner circle. Selena was leaving soon. She didn't want to blend in, and she had no reason to. Meanwhile, Olivia effortlessly became the center of attention. Standing in the middle of the room, holding a wine glass, she drew every gaze, including Jonathan's. At first, he simply sat beside Selena, his face cold and distant. His mind was elsewhere, but at least his body was here. But when Olivia started downing drinks one after another, flashing glimpses of skin from beneath her short dress, his knuckles whitened from clenched fists. When he couldn't take it anymore, he stood up and grabbed Olivia's drinking hand. Are you over your cold already? Drinking like this, do you have a death wish? His voice was tense, worry written all over his face. Olivia looked straight at Selena, a smile slowly spreading across her lips. Jonathan, your little girlfriend's right there watching. And here you are holding my hand, aren't you afraid she'll get jealous and start a scene? Jonathan didn't turn around. His fingers tightened. The room fell silent as all eyes turned toward them. When the awkwardness hit rock bottom, Jonathan finally let go of her hand. I don't have many close friends. Try not to waste your life away. Olivia obediently set down the glass. If I can't drink, I can still dance, right? She flipped her hair, shrugged off her coat, revealing a barely there cami top and ultra-short skirt underneath. A few people couldn't look away. Whistles echoed from the corners. Jonathan said nothing, fists clenched tighter. Selena knew this was his warning sign. Olivia headed to the dance floor. The booth's atmosphere turned glacial. Selena overheard someone whisper, "So, what do we do now?" What could they do? Selena let out a soft, cold laugh and counted in her head. 3 seconds later, Jonathan suddenly relaxed his fists and turned to Selena with a smile. As if nothing happened. Baby, I need to use the restroom. But when he turned, it was obvious he was headed toward the dance floor. Selena's heart was beyond pain now, numb. The club lights stung her eyes, but she forced herself to watch him push through the crowd, to watch them struggle. He tried to pull Olivia away. She refused, so he bent down and carried her out in his arms. Jonathan, when angry, wasn't good at controlling his emotions. But tonight, all his restraint and care were for Olivia. Even carrying her out, he made sure not to expose her. Among Jonathan's friends, someone chuckled. They've been broken up for years. But Sue still acts like Olivia's his. Look at how he stares at her. He's totally gone. She's the only one he's ever really loved. Huh? Selena's eyes dimmed. Another friend smacked that guy on the arm. Dude, you're drunk. Shut up. What do you mean? Possessive? They're just friends. He looked pointedly at Selena while speaking, realizing his mistake. The guy turned and apologized to her with a smile. Sorry, sis-in-law. I talk nonsense when I'm drunk. Hope you don't mind. Sis-in-law? Selena gave a bitter smile and shook her head. You don't need to call me that. Their sis-in-law, the one they should be calling that, would soon be standing proudly by Jonathan's side. As for her, it was time to live her own life. The conversation dropped. Selena found an excuse and left the booth. But just as she turned a corner, she froze. The two who'd left minutes ago now stood not 10 steps away from her. In the dim, hazy light, Olivia clung tightly to Jonathan's waist, crying pitifully. Jonathan, I'm jealous. Seeing you standing with another woman makes me miserable. That spot beside you, it was mine. She said it with such boldness, like being the other woman was her right. Jonathan only lowered his head, gently wiping away her tears. Why are you crying? If your eyes swell, you'll be upset again tomorrow. His voice was filled with unconscious tenderness. Selena didn't want to see another second. She turned and walked out of the club, hailed a cab, and went home. She had already assumed he wouldn't come back tonight, and was about to lock the door. But at 12:30 a.m., Jonathan Sue unexpectedly showed up at the door. Beside him stood Olivia. He was clearly drunk, swaying, half his weight leaning on Olivia. Selena saw it instantly, the obvious red mark on Olivia's neck. Under the light, it was blinding. Olivia no longer wore the friendly mask from their first meeting. You saw everything tonight, didn't you? She sneered. Tell me, what part of you could ever attract him? Your body? Your unborn baby? Or maybe, your face? But she lifted her hand, revealing a ring on her finger. No matter how much you look like me, a substitute is still a substitute, and the one he loves has always been me. Chapter 6. That night, Selena sat at the edge of the bed, sleepless. She suddenly felt like she no longer recognized the man she had spent 5 years with. She had never imagined that the same man who held her in his arms, weeping in the hospital after she lost their child, saying I'm sorry over and over, would one day treat their baby's death like a joke. Something he could casually mention and forget. She thought, at the very least, that he had truly cared about their child. But now, she realized, no matter how sincere his feelings were, compared to what he had for Olivia, they were worth nothing. Selena bit back her tears, her palm covered in deep red crescent marks. Yet the aching in her chest refused to ease. Not until the sun rose the next morning, its light warming her swollen eyelids. Selena gave one last glance at the man sleeping on the sofa. Then, after packing up, she stepped out. If she was going to leave, she had to take everything with her. The baby, too. She spent the whole morning with a cemetery broker, selecting a new resting place for the child, far away from H City. In her hometown, when she returned home, it was already noon. The broker called to confirm the arrangements. Miss Bai, if everything looks good on your end, we'll proceed with the relocation. As Selena changed shoes at the entrance, she had just uttered that single syllable when a strong arm wrapped around her waist. The familiar scent hit her as Jonathan's drowsy voice came from behind. What relocation? Who's moving a grave? No one. Selena calmly ended the call. A friend's family had an issue and asked me about the cemetery our baby's buried at. Her voice was light, almost indifferent. Jonathan froze, then remembered the child. His eyes filled with pain, his hand gently resting on her stomach. Voice nasal and soft. Baby, we have to visit our little one often from now on, okay? We can't let him feel like we abandoned him, especially once we have another child in the future. He sounded sincere, but Selena Bai's heart sank. She had given him chances, but that night, he had still chosen Olivia without hesitation, so he no longer deserved to visit the child, and there would be no future for them, no second child. Lost in thought, Selena didn't notice her finger go cold. She looked down and saw a ring had been slipped onto it. It's beautiful, Jonathan said, trying to shift the mood. His lips brushed her fingertips. When I bought it, I knew it would suit you. But Selena's gaze fell on the matching ring on his own finger, identical to the one Olivia wore last night. She held out her hand. The two rings bumped together. Selena let out a short laugh. They're not a pair. Jonathan's smile stiffened. He grabbed her hand again, forcing a softer tone. Baby likes matching rings? Then next time, we'll go pick a set together. No need. The one on his hand, the one matching Olivia's, was already a pair. The spot on his hand, and the one in his heart, had long been given to Olivia. Any new rings would just gather dust on her vanity. Jonathan finally noticed something was wrong. Uneasy. He hugged her tightly. What's wrong, baby? You haven't smiled in days. Is something bothering you? If you want, I'll drop work and take you on a trip, okay? He gently pinched her cheek, but before he could finish, his phone rang. Without even looking, he answered impatiently. Who is it? Jonathan. The room was too quiet. Selena immediately recognized Olivia's voice. Jonathan froze too, awkwardly letting Selena go. Baby, I'll take this call. He coughed and walked to the balcony, right before the glass door closed. Selena heard his worried voice. Don't cry. The moment Olivia cried, his heart ached. Selena slowly turned the ring on her finger. Through the glass, she watched his expression shift rapidly. Eventually, whatever he heard made his face darken. He muttered, "Wait for me," grabbed his jacket, and rushed out the door. Baby, I've got something to handle. Stay home, okay? Selena didn't respond. Once the door closed, she removed the ring and tossed it onto the table. Half an hour later, Selena saw Olivia's new post online. Thankfully, you're still the boy who drops everything to be with me when I'm down. Attached were two photos, Jonathan tying her shoelaces. Two nearly identical photos, taken 5 years apart. The same tender, helpless look in his eyes. Right after, Olivia posted her plane tickets for an international flight. Caption: True love and faraway lands. The comments were full of people swooning over them. Selena's chest turned to ice. Those sweet promises from earlier now seemed like a joke. She shut off her phone, no anger, no confrontation, and turned to pack. She didn't touch anything Jonathan had given her, only boxed her own belongings and sent them home in batches. With just a few days left before her departure, she shipped the last box. Just as she took a breath of relief, her phone rang, an unfamiliar number. She hesitated, then answered. A familiar voice from Jonathan's circle came through in a rush. Sue got into an accident this morning doing a skydiving challenge. The ambulance is on the way to the hospital. Sis-in-law, you need to get here fast. Chapter 7. Selena's hand paused as she reached for her keys. Another panicked shout came from the other end of the call, followed by the name of a hospital, and then the line abruptly disconnected. After listening to the beeping tone for a few seconds, Selena hesitated, but still called a cab and rushed over. The hospital wasn't far from home. As soon as she stepped out of the car, she ran straight into the stretcher being wheeled out of the ambulance. Jonathan was lying on it, covered in blood, eyes unfocused. Selena hesitated, unsure if she should go to him, but one of Jonathan's friends had already spotted her. Sis-in-law, you're here. This way. He grabbed Selena and followed the stretcher down the hallway. On the way, she asked, still puzzled, isn't he afraid of heights? Why would he go skydiving of all things? The friend sighed in exasperation. Out of spite, obviously. In that moment, Selena understood everything. The friend, eyes red with frustration, let his words slip. Yesterday morning at the airport, Sue and Olivia ran into her ex. That guy's a scumbag. He used Olivia's mom's belongings to force her into getting back with him. Olivia refused. Sue stepped in to protect her, and the ex challenged Sue to go skydiving, said if Sue had the guts to jump, he'd back off. And Sue actually went. Can you believe that crap? So it was true. For Olivia, Jonathan would even risk his life. Selena let out a self-deprecating laugh. Jonathan was rushed into emergency care. You stay here, his friend said. I'll go find a doctor I know. Judging by this, he'll probably need surgery. He pushed Selena toward the bed. The gurney wobbled slightly. Before Selena could react, Her hand was suddenly grabbed. Don't be scared. Jonathan's mind was clouded. His hands, soaked in blood, still clung tightly to hers. Selena froze. Then he coughed up blood painfully and muttered, "Olivia, don't be scared. I'm here." He held her hand, calling Olivia's name, even as he drifted into unconsciousness. Not once did he remember Selena. The doctor arrived quickly, but Jonathan's grip was so tight it took two people to pry them apart. His friend chuckled awkwardly. "Wow, Sue really treats you differently, even in this state. He won't let go of your hand. Looks like I'll be eating wedding cake soon." "Huh? Very soon," Selena replied, rubbing the red marks on her hand, smiling. "Don't worry, when I get married, I'll send you an invite." "That's great." Sue's finally settling down after all these years. "I'll give you guys a fat red envelope." His friend looked sincerely touched, but Selena simply looked out the window. Yes, she was getting married soon, but the groom would never be Jonathan. The surgery lasted 6 full hours. Jonathan's leg injury was severe, just short of needing an amputation. He spent a night in the ICU, and once he was stable enough to move to a regular room, he still hadn't regained consciousness. His face was covered in abrasions, and even while unconscious, he kept murmuring Olivia's name. Selena used to think she had seen how deeply Jonathan could love, but now she truly understood. The difference between love and indifference was crystal clear. Everything she had once begged for, Olivia received effortlessly. Selena said nothing as she stayed by his side, wetting his lips throughout the night. By dawn, when Jonathan finally opened his eyes and saw Selena, he looked slightly dazed. But when he noticed the dark circles under her eyes, his heart softened immediately, his gaze melting with affection. "You were that worried about me? You didn't even take care of yourself." Selena tucked in his blanket and smiled faintly, unfazed. "It's fine, just a few more days of this." She sounded casual, but Jonathan sensed something was off. "Still mad? Or are you just feeling sorry for me?" He recalled a week ago, when he'd worked nonstop and collapsed at the office. When he woke up, Selena had worn the same expression, quietly angry, thinking he didn't care about his health, crying by herself in frustration. That memory relaxed him. "Silly girl, look, I'm fine now, aren't I?" He reached out, wanting to pull Selena into his arms, but she stepped back calmly. "Of course I care. After all, you've looked after me all these years even though we're not related by blood. I'd be heartless not to worry about you." Uncle Sue, that polite, distant Uncle Sue made Jonathan's face sink, as if that's all they'd ever been. He frowned, just about to speak when a familiar voice cut in, Selena's father, full of concern. "That's right, little Sue, how could you be so careless?" Only then did Jonathan realize Selena was on the phone with Henry Bai. His irritation faded. He responded with a smile, giving Selena a teasing look, silently mouthing, "Still hiding us?" He was the one who'd told her to keep it a secret. Now that she was doing just that, he looked dissatisfied. Selena merely curved her lips faintly, still distant. On the other end, Henry sighed. "You're almost 30, and you still don't have someone close by. Thank goodness Seal's there to look after you, but you really should think about settling down soon." Jonathan looked at Selena with a smirk. "She's still young. I'll take care of her for a few more years." "What young? My Seal's bringing her fiancé home to hold a wedding in a few days. You can't be later than my girl now. Can you?" Chapter 8. Jonathan's smile froze. Selena also frowned slightly and hung up the call perfunctorily. When she turned around, she was met with the sharp and suspicious gaze in Jonathan's eyes. "Didn't I say we shouldn't go public for now? Why did you tell your dad you're bringing someone home, and even holding a wedding?" Selena scrolled through her phone screen calmly. "Then don't come. After all, the one meeting the parents, the one standing at the altar, wasn't him." She was too quiet. Jonathan glanced at the injuries on her hand, wounds gained from taking care of him. He couldn't bring himself to be harsh, and instead gently rubbed her hand. "I'm not trying to scold you, baby. I just think now isn't the right time to tell your family." I know." Selena's agreement caught Jonathan off guard. She didn't act like before, no whining, no clinging to ask when he would finally marry her. A strange ache pulled at Jonathan's chest. After a few moments of silence, Realizing she didn't plan to say more, he sighed and changed the subject. While I've been in the hospital, who came to visit? Your buddies. Jonathan nodded, clearly waiting for a specific name. Selena knew who he was hoping to hear, but that's all. Olivia hadn't shown up, not even once. Jonathan's smile faded, still unwilling to accept it. He reached for his phone. As soon as he turned it on, countless messages popped up. He looked slightly relieved and scrolled through quickly, but the further he went, the darker his face became. Not a single message from Olivia. His expression sank completely. He didn't say another word for the rest of the day. Selena knew he was angry. Angry that Olivia didn't care. Just like she once knew that he loved Olivia. The following days passed, but Olivia never came. Only his friends dropped in occasionally. But Selena remained the one at his side, caring for him, staying with him almost constantly. On the day he was discharged, his friends teased him. Sue, your girl's something else. She's young, but a pro at looking after people. Just look at you, she's nursed you so well your face looks rounder now. You're lucky. Man. Jonathan grinned proudly. Of course, she's mine. Who else's would she be? He then wrapped his arm around Selena's waist and rested his head gently on her stomach. Baby, thank you for never leaving me these past years. Just wait a little longer, and I'll make you the happiest Mrs. Sue ever. Everyone around them cheered and teased. Selena, however, calmly pushed him off and went back to folding clothes. You're too kind. I've been in H City for 5 years, and during that time, you've looked after me on my dad's behalf. I owe you that favor. These few days might not compare to those years, but I've cooked for you plenty. I'd say we're even now. Each word carefully drew a clear boundary between them. Jonathan felt something was wrong. Even? What do you mean? You're my girlfriend. Soon you'll be registered in the Sue family. How can that be even? Selena quietly pulled away from his hand, voice barely audible. There's no soon. What? Jonathan didn't catch it. Selena was standing right there, within arm's reach. Yet for some reason he suddenly had the terrifying feeling she was about to slip away forever. He opened his mouth to ask, but the door opened. Jonathan. I'm sorry. Olivia, who'd been gone for days, walked in with red eyes and ran straight to him. She knocked into Selena, sending her stumbling. Jonathan instinctively reached out to steady Olivia. He caught her, then remembered something, and quickly let go, face going cold. What are you doing here? He looked like he wanted nothing to do with her. Olivia couldn't hold back anymore and began to sob. I've been hiding these past few days. That man kept stalking me. I wasn't avoiding you on purpose. I didn't even dare turn on my phone. Afraid he'd call again. Jonathan. I was just too scared. I'm sorry. She hadn't even finished when Jonathan's face changed. You'd rather be scared alone than call me? Olivia. All these years, can't you rely on me just a little? His eyes were filled only with her reflection. Everyone around them looked awkward, quietly trying to stop him. Sue, what are you saying? Your girl's still right here. But Jonathan Sue only frowned deeper. Baby, go home first. I'll come back after I deal with this. Not a request, a command. Just a few teary words from Olivia, and his heart melted again without boundaries. Once more, the spacious VIP ward was left with only Selena. Since Olivia came back, Selena had lost count of how many times Jonathan had left her behind. But it didn't matter. She looked down at her phone screen. A message from her fiancé. Sent 30 minutes ago. If possible, can I be the one to bring you home? This time, Selena didn't hesitate. Sure, just a few days left now. After that, Jonathan could love whoever he wanted. It would have nothing to do with her. Chapter 9. After leaving the hospital, Selena's remaining days in the city entered their final countdown. Faced with a choice between a cold, empty home or spending time with friends, she decisively chose the latter, a last get-together before saying goodbye. The group chat buzzed with activity, and eventually, everyone voted for a wild, no-holds-barred night at a private club. As long as everyone was happy, Selena had no objections. But what she didn't expect, not in a million years, was to run into Jonathan and Olivia here. She was just walking past one of the private rooms when, through a door that wasn't fully shut, she heard a familiar voice. You lost. Fair and square. No backing out, we said, mouth-to-mouth cherry feeding. If it doesn't work, you have to keep trying until it does. The door crack wasn't small. Selena only had to tilt her head slightly to see inside. Olivia, dressed in a revealing miniskirt, straddling Jonathan's lap. Jonathan's hand gripped her waist while the other cradled her face, guiding her downward, inch by inch. The necklace around Olivia's neck brushed against Jonathan's throat. A cherry, crimson red, passed back and forth between their lips, teasing, tempting. The others around them whooped and laughed, voices sharp and cutting. Selena stood silently in the corridor, watching Jonathan bite down on the cherry, pulling it into his mouth. At one moment, their lips were so close, they were practically kissing. Selena suddenly remembered the message Jonathan had sent her 2 hours earlier. Olivia's in a bad mood. I'll be with her for a bit, then come back. Don't worry, we're not alone. So, he knew she'd feel insecure about this. And yet, even in a group, they behaved without shame. Selena had no desire to further disgust herself. She turned and went to the restroom. But when she came out, Olivia blocked her at the corner. With Jonathan not around, she didn't even bother pretending. Saw that little scene at the door, didn't you? Olivia sneered. Little girl, stop trying to compete with me. In all these years, there's never been a man I couldn't win. Got it? There was no affection in her eyes, only naked ambition. Selena didn't want to waste time on petty drama. She brushed it off with a vague and turned to leave. But Olivia suddenly grabbed her. Don't believe me? Still not convinced? Then let me show you. Before Selena could react, she was dragged into a dimly lit private room. Are you insane? Selena's gut screamed warning. Inside, a stranger was waiting. His eyes ran over her from head to toe, full of lechery. Nice, real nice. I'll take her. The man rubbed his hands together and approached. Selena's face turned deathly pale. She seized the brief moment Olivia loosened her grip, shoved her away with all her strength, and bolted out the door, heart racing. She rounded a corner, and at the end of the hall, she saw Jonathan. Tears welled up instantly. Sue, Jonathan, help me. But before the words could land, Olivia's shrill voice cut through the air. She flung herself into Jonathan's arms, trembling. Behind her, the man from earlier appeared, chasing after them. Seeing Jonathan, he panicked, swore under his breath, and fled. Selena exhaled in relief, but Olivia burst into tears. Miss Bai, even if you hate me, you didn't have to do that. Selena stared in disbelief. What the hell are you saying? That man, you brought him. Why would I bring someone to assault myself? Do I look insane? She curled into Jonathan's arms, sobbing uncontrollably. I know you don't want me near Jonathan. You hate me. Fine. I'll go abroad again. But why would you humiliate me like this? She wept, pitiful and wronged, and Jonathan's anger flared. Selena, I know you get jealous, but there has to be a line. What the hell were you thinking? Are you trying to commit a crime now? Is this the kind of family the Bais raised you to be? Red marks still marred Selena's wrist from Olivia's grip. Her voice trembled with fury and fear. This place is full of surveillance cameras. What happened? What didn't? It's all there. Who gave you the right to accuse me? Yes, she liked him, but that didn't give him the right to trample all over her. Jonathan faltered, doubt flickered across his eyes. Just as he was about to say something, Olivia frowned and suddenly collapsed in his arms. Panic overtook him, forgetting everything else. He scooped her up and rushed off. As he passed Selena, his face was cold, voice full of warning. You think I don't know why you came here tonight? You were following me, and now this cheap little scheme? Selena, you better think real hard about what you've done. When you're ready to apologize, I'll be at the hospital waiting. Chapter 10. Selena clenched her fists so tightly it hurt as she stepped in front of Jonathan to block his path, forcing down her emotions. You're really this blind for her? You won't even bother checking the security footage before accusing me? Her voice was calm, too calm. What should have been a fierce question came out soft, almost distant. It was the first time Jonathan had seen her like this. A strange pain twisted in his chest. That feeling of her slipping away, of her being close yet unreachable, squeezed his heart tight. But when he looked down at the unconscious Olivia in his arms, His expression hardened again. Olivia's only met you a few times. Why would she accuse you for no reason? Then you think I would? Selena's voice finally sharpened, but Jonathan responded coldly. You know what you did. You know what you did. So that's what he thought of her, that all this time. That was who she'd been in his eyes. Selena watched the two of them walk away. When she met Olivia's smug, triumphant gaze from the shadows, her heart, already numb, still flinched in pain. This was the man she had loved, with everything she had. 4 years. Without love, not even the most basic trust remained between them. Selena no longer had the strength to return to the farewell party. She texted her friends, then left the club, exhausted. But under the streetlight just outside, she spotted that same man from earlier, the one Olivia had brought. Well, sweetheart, your man didn't measure up. Huh? If you ask me, you'd be better off with me. I'll show you a real good time. Get lost. Selena had no energy to deal with scum like this. The man only laughed louder. Get lost? Sure, how about we get lost together, in bed? His tone was sleazy, and as he unbuttoned his shirt, he started walking toward her. Selena glanced around. The street was empty. Barely any cars. Her heart dropped. Don't come any closer, I'll call the police. The police? He sneered. This is just mutual fun. Sweetheart, think they'll care? You're disgusting. Tears of fury welled in her eyes. As he got close, she kicked him hard in the groin. The man crumpled with a howl, and Selena bolted. But she hadn't gone far when she heard him charging after her. You bitch! Hit me! Huh? Let's see how far you get when I catch you. Selena had never faced anything like this. Her face might have looked calm, but her mind was in chaos. Desperate, she pulled out her phone and, by instinct, dialed Jonathan. No time to think. Jonathan, help me! Someone's following me! What answered her was his cold, mocking chuckle. Funny how you never have an emergency until I'm tied up with Olivia. Selena, you really think lying like this is cute? I'm not lying. I swear. Enough. You've gone too far. If you won't apologize, don't try these cheap tricks to drag me back in. Selena's breath hitched, and then, in the background, she heard Olivia cry out in pain. The call ended. Before she could redial, a hand yanked her by the hair. You wanted to run? Go on. Run again. A heavy slap landed across her face. Her phone hit the ground, shattering. And you tried to call for help? Look at that. Not even your precious man gives a damn. He shoved the video chat screen in her face. Jonathan was still staring at his phone blankly. Olivia tugged at his sleeve, gently whining. Forget it. Miss Bai is probably just young and jealous. Jonathan's expression darkened. He made up his mind. No, she has to learn. I can tolerate her tantrums, but not this. Everyone has to answer for their actions. She's not a kid anymore. Selena had already given up hoping he'd believe her. While the man mocked her, she reached behind and grabbed a brick. Then with all her strength, she smashed it into his head. He screamed, releasing her. Selena scrambled up and ran for the police station. The rest of the night was a blur. By the time she walked out, dawn had broken. A police officer walked her to the door. For your safety, you should have a family member come pick you up. Selena looked at her phone, cracked and barely functioning, and saw the message Jonathan had sent half an hour ago. If you want me to make our relationship public, come apologize to Olivia. Don't make me say it a third time. His one and only message in hours, all for Olivia. Selena smiled faintly and told the officer she'd be fine. Then, she deleted every one of Jonathan Sue's contacts. She sent a message to her fiancé. Could you come pick me up, please? Then she went home, showered, and finished packing her last suitcase. As she lifted it, Jonathan returned. The bruises under his eyes told the story. He'd spent the whole night caring for Olivia. He meant to be cold with her, but when he saw the fresh wound on her forehead, he couldn't help frowning. You're hurt? Why didn't you tell me? His concerns seemed genuine. Selena looked at him calmly, unfazed. I did. You said I was lying. That's when Jonathan remembered. The concern disappeared. What? The bruises weren't enough? You hired a makeup artist too? He knew her too well. She was spoiled growing up, even a tiny cut in the kitchen had once left her sobbing in his arms. No way she'd be this calm if she were truly hurt. But Selena was stubborn, unbearably so. Jonathan sighed, eyes full of helplessness. Olivia's still shaken and has a fever. She needs to stay in the hospital for a few more days. I just came home to get some clean clothes. I'll stay there with her for now. You take some time to reflect. When you've come to your senses, come find me. Otherwise, forget about me meeting your parents or getting married. Married? Who said she still wanted to marry him? Selena watched his figure disappear, then silently dragged her suitcase downstairs. She climbed into a sleek Cullinan SUV. Inside, a refined, elegant man reached out a hand to her. His voice was low, deep, and magnetic. "Hello, my fiancé." Chapter 11. After packing just a few days' worth of clothes, Jonathan grew increasingly unsettled. Something about Selena's reaction just didn't sit right with him. He couldn't pinpoint what was wrong, but it was off. She'd never been like that before. She used to look at him with eyes full of desire and possessiveness. So why? When he told her he was going to accompany Olivia, had she remained so calm? It was as if the situation, and even he himself, no longer had anything to do with her. The pressure in his chest worsened. In a fluster, he knocked over a glass of water. The cold splash against his hand jolted him awake. All hesitation vanished. He dropped his bag and rushed downstairs, only to see a Cullinan SUV slowly pulling away right in front of him. His heart clenched painfully. A tidal wave of unease surged over him, threatening to drown him. He pulled out his phone to call Selena. Even just hearing her voice would settle him. But before he could tap the call button, a call from Olivia popped up. Irritated, he answered, though mindful of her condition. He softened his voice. "What's wrong?" She immediately burst into tears. "Jonathan, where are you? I just had a dream. I dreamed you all abandoned me, like everyone else before. I woke up and you weren't here, and I'm so scared. Can you come back, just for a little while?" Her voice trembled even in crying. She sounded careful, afraid to make too much noise. But as Jonathan stared at the tail end of the disappearing SUV, the panic in his chest grew. For the first time, he refused Olivia's request. Selena seemed off. "I need to find her. If you're really scared, call Martin." He moved to hang up, but Olivia's sobs became more pitiful. "Miss Bai will be fine. She likes you so much. Could she really leave you?" "But Jonathan, I'm really scared. Please, even just for a moment. Just let me see you. Then you can go, okay?" Right. How could Selena possibly leave him? They were going to get married. After all, as long as she behaved, he would marry her. That thought seemed to snap something into place. The panic dissolved. "Okay, I'm coming now." He rushed to the hospital, but when he arrived, several nurses were exiting Olivia's room in a flurry. They explained she had an episode, emotional instability, self-harming, and had to be sedated. Jonathan hadn't expected it to be this serious. By the time he entered the room, Olivia was unconscious. Bright red blood stained the white bedsheets. Leaning silently against the wall, he finally pulled out his phone and made a call. "Martin, do me a favor. Buy some apology gifts, send them under Selena's name." Martin was at a bar, living it up. He laughed the moment he heard that. "What's this now, Sue? What are you even doing?" "Shut up," Jonathan muttered, lowering his voice. "Selena went too far this time. She's prideful. Asking her to apologize is like asking her to climb Everest. But appearances matter. She'll be part of the Sue family. I can't have her reputation ruined." Martin burst out laughing. "Aw, got it. Your little lady messes up, and you've got no choice but to clean it up behind her. All right, leave it to me." He ended the call and quickly arranged things with his assistant. But Olivia's condition stretched into 7 full days. During those 7 days, Jonathan stayed at the hospital, partly to make amends for Selena, and partly to let her cool off. That girl had been spoiled to the heavens. If he didn't start reining her in now, what if they had a little wild monster of a child one day? He'd lose his mind. Jonathan sighed. But then he pictured the future, raising a child who looked like Selena, and couldn't help smiling. A kid like her wouldn't be so bad. Just then, the exam room door beside him opened. Olivia walked out with her test results. Can I be discharged now? He hadn't seen or contacted Selena in 7 days. If Olivia couldn't leave the hospital today, he figured he'd have to hire a nurse. But Olivia had noticed Jonathan's shift. Even though he'd been by her side this whole week, it was clear his mind was elsewhere. Half the time he stared at his phone, waiting for Selena. But how could Olivia let go now, after trying so hard? Looking at the man in front of her, perfect in looks and status, she clenched her fists in unwillingness. Just as she was about to speak, Martin's exaggerated voice interrupted everything. No way. Sue, I'm not seeing things. Am I? You're still here? Still with Olivia? Still with her? Olivia's smile stiffened. Jonathan frowned. Where else would I be? The wedding venue. Obviously. Martin slapped his forehead and pulled out an invitation. Selena sent it to me yesterday. Said she's getting married today. I was planning to head over this afternoon. If you're not going, who the hell is she marrying? Chapter 12. Jonathan's mind went completely blank. What invitation? Martin looked just as confused. The wedding invitation. Desperate to prove he wasn't hallucinating, he quickly flipped open the envelope and pointed at the names printed on the card. Here. Look. The bride and groom's names. Wait a second. Why isn't your name listed as the groom? Who the hell is calling ye? Martin held up the card, completely stunned. Jonathan's face darkened as he snatched the invitation, eyes glued to the unfamiliar name printed next to Selena's. Olivia could hardly suppress the smile tugging at her lips. She coughed lightly and stepped forward with feigned concern. These kinds of invitations are easy to fake. Jonathan, maybe Selena just wanted to make you jealous. It wouldn't be the first time she's lied, right? Maybe she thought you were ignoring her for too long. She analyzed it smoothly, tone calm and persuasive. Jonathan's expression eased slightly, but his voice was still icy. She's gone too far. Randomly slapping someone's name on a fake invitation? If her dad sees this, he'll beat her half to death. What is she thinking? With that, he pulled out his phone and dialed Selena. Martin hesitated, swallowing hard. Sue. I don't think her dad's gonna beat her, he said cautiously. Jonathan's brows drew together. What's that supposed to mean? Martin winced. The invitation, it was sent from the Bai family. Pretty sure, her dad already saw it and gave his blessing. Jonathan's breath caught. At the same time, his call connected, only to be met with the flat voice of an automated assistant. Selena had declined his call, and in that moment, Jonathan suddenly recalled what Henry Bai had said during their last call. So it wasn't a bluff. She was never planning to marry him at all? Hands trembling, Jonathan frantically redialed. This time, the response came faster. The phone you were trying to reach is powered off. Jonathan Sue finally panicked. He didn't even notice his hands were shaking. Olivia's heart shot to her throat. She didn't want to go back to a life without money. She had worked so hard to return to Jonathan's side, there was no way she'd let go now. Forcing a smile, she grabbed Jonathan's arm. Jonathan, please don't overthink. Maybe she really is joking. Uncle Bai spoils her so much. Maybe this is all. You're not panicking? Martin interrupted sharply, pointing at the date printed on the invitation. See this? The ceremony starts in 2 hours. If it's fake, great. But if it's real, and you don't act now, by the time you do panic, it'll be too late. Clang. The insulated lunchbox in Jonathan's hand hit the floor with a crash. Hot broth splattered everywhere. Olivia's alarm bells blared. Jonathan, she called, eyes red, reaching to embrace him. But Jonathan turned sharply, dodging her touch without a glance. Her heart went cold. She clenched her nails into her palm, steeling herself to faint again as a last-ditch attempt. But Jonathan didn't even look at her. He grabbed Martin's arm tightly, the veins on his forehead bulging. Where is it? Martin blinked. Huh? I said, where is the wedding being held? Chapter 13. Jonathan's voice was hoarse. Martin finally snapped out of his daze. Here. It's right here. He scrambled to point at the hotel name printed on the invitation. Then, hesitating, he glanced at Jonathan. But bro, it's out of province. The ceremony starts in 2 hours. Even if you leave right now. Before Martin could finish, Jonathan was already storming off. Even Olivia's call couldn't stop him. Panicking, She dropped her act and lunged at him, trying to wrap her arms around him only to be flung off with one hand. Her ankle twisted sharply in the fall, pain shooting through her leg. Tears streamed down her face instantly, but Jonathan didn't even look back. He turned and disappeared into the stairwell without a word. Olivia's face went ghost pale. She turned to Martin, tears still glimmering in her eyes, trying to look fragile. "Martin, I twisted my ankle. Can you?" "Nope." Martin immediately threw his hands up like surrendering to police, backing away. "Come on. He's going to chase his bride. Stop sticking your nose in this. All the crap you pulled lately, Sue might not want to think badly of you. But we're all seasoned players here. Don't bother acting with me." His voice was blunt, and his cool gaze carried no warmth. The pitiful look on Olivia's face finally cracked. Face twisted in frustration. She clenched her fists and grabbed her phone, dialing Jonathan again and again. 3 times, no answer. Enraged, she smashed her phone on the floor in front of everyone. Meanwhile, Jonathan was already on the highway. The entire drive, he was trying to contact Selena by blocked on WeChat? Fine. He'd call, one call, then another, dozens of calls. Like a madman, his foot floored the gas. Outside the windshield, the scenery was just a blur, but he didn't notice any of it. Finally, he switched to his backup phone and tried again. This time, the call went through. "Hello? Who is this?" Selena's soft voice came through the speaker, and in that instant, it smoothed the chaos raging in Jonathan's heart. His hand trembled, his eyes turned red. "Hello?" she repeated, confused by the silence. Jonathan exhaled sharply. He was about to say baby, the word caught in his throat. Then another voice came through. "Sele, that wedding dress really suits you." Jonathan's heart skipped a beat. Selena laughed lightly and thanked him. The two continued chatting casually about the dress. Jonathan's grip on the steering wheel tightened, veins bulging, knuckles white. Then the man asked, "Something wrong?" Selena's voice cooled. "Nothing, just a spam call. Didn't say anything, super weird." She was about to hang up. Jonathan's gaze turned ice cold. "Selena, who told you could delete me from your contacts? Who said you could ignore my calls? Who gave you permission to get married? Did we break up? What right do you have to end our relationship on your own?" Chapter 14. Jonathan's voice cut through like a knife, too sudden, too raw. The other end of the call fell into silence, a long silence, so long that all Jonathan could hear was the thunderous pounding of his own panicked heartbeat. Finally, Selena's voice drifted back, calm and cold. "Why can't I? You cheated. Abandoned me again and again for your crush, so why can't I end things on my own?" She laughed, but there was no warmth in it. Every word struck like a blade. Jonathan's heart skipped again, twisted tighter. "I never cheated. When did I?" "Sele," a familiar voice called in the background. "You're all dressed already? Still on the phone? Oh right. Did you send the invitation to your uncle Jonathan? He's the one person everyone said must attend your wedding. If you leave him out, wouldn't that be sad?" "Bye. He won't come," Selena said, cutting him off effortlessly. Her tone was light, casual, distant. Before the call ended, all Jonathan could hear was her breezy laughter. "Uncle Jonathan is very busy. He has a lot of people to see, a lot of people to keep company. I doubt he'll make it in time." Click. The line went dead. Jonathan stood frozen, the sound still echoing in his ears. All he could think about was the last time he saw Selena, how calm she had been, how emotionless her words, how those eyes no longer held him at all. His chest twisted painfully. It felt like a net had tightened around his heart, constricting it with every breath, every beat. He didn't dare lose focus. He only wanted to drive faster, because he had a terrible feeling, this time, he might really lose Selena forever. At the hotel, the moment Selena hung up, someone knocked on the dressing room door. "Miss Bai, the ceremony is starting soon. The bride and groom can begin preparing." "All right." Selena set her phone down. In the full-length mirror, she stood in a custom-made wedding gown, the sheer veil draping softly over her face, hiding the emotion storming beneath her eyes. 5 years. She had truly, deeply loved Jonathan for 5 whole years. Those were the most vibrant years of her youth. And no matter how strong a person is, No one can pour their heart into love and walk away completely whole. So yes, it still hurt. Her chest still felt heavy, and her eyes still burned with unshed tears. You okay? Colin handed her a tissue. Their eyes met. In his, she saw only concern. That kind of concern, pure and familiar. In the few days since she'd returned and been around him, she had felt this strange sense of déjà vu. More than once, she'd catch him watching her quietly when they were alone, silent, with a faint smile, like he was seeing an old friend. But no matter how hard she searched her memory, she couldn't recall ever meeting someone like him before. Are you sure you want to go through with this? If not, we can cancel the wedding. Colin smiled gently. It was a smile that said, no matter what you choose, I'll support you. Selena had long outgrown the luxury of acting on impulse. This wasn't just a wedding. This was a union between the Bai and Yi families. Any mistake today would be far more than personal. She took a deep breath, steadied herself. I'm okay. Let's go. Before stepping out, Colin quietly slipped something into her hand. She opened her palm, a piece of fruit-flavored candy. Something sweet. He grinned. Maybe it'll make today feel a little better. Outside, trees rustled in the wind, petals falling like confetti. Selena forced a smile, then walked down the stairs to the music. Her father took her arm. Step by step, she walked the red carpet. Each step forward, her eyes grew wetter. She had imagined this moment countless times, her wedding day. The weather would be perfect. Her father would probably scowl, thinking the groom was too old for his precious daughter, and Jonathan would smile as they exchanged rings. She was so sure she'd be walking into happiness. But in all those dreams, never once did she imagine the groom wouldn't be Jonathan, and maybe that was for the best. Colin was a good man. The day she returned, she had laid everything bare for him, told him her past, gave him the right to choose. He had gone quiet for a long time, then simply said, "Is that so? Then that man's an idiot. Who loses someone like you and doesn't fight for her? Good thing for me, I get to keep a treasure." Selena never forgot his smile that day. It was sincere, no hint of calculation or self-interest. It was the first time she thought, maybe marrying someone like him wouldn't be so bad. It would solidify the family alliance. And emotionally, at least they could be respectful and kind. She had convinced herself it would work. Henry Bai's eyes were already red as he handed her over. His hands trembled as he placed hers in Colin's. Little Yi, I only have one daughter. I've protected her all these years like she was made of glass. Today, I give my treasure to you. If you ever mistreat her, I swear, I won't be polite. His voice cracked at the end. Selena nearly cried with him. The audience chuckled at the heartfelt moment. But Colin was serious. Don't worry, Dad. I object. The crowd turned in shock. At the grand hall entrance, Jonathan stood panting, soaked in sweat, lips pale from the run, his eyes locked on Selena, bloodshot, wild. I said I don't agree. You can't get married. Chapter 15. Jonathan's outburst cut through the air like a gunshot. The hall fell silent for several seconds, every pair of eyes turning to him. It was Henry who recovered first, wiping his tears into a bright smile. "Ah, Sue, there you are. I knew you'd show up. You promised you'd attend Seal's wedding. No way you'd miss it. Come, you're just in time for the best part. Selena, come here." Jonathan stood in the doorway, backlit by the light, eyes locked on Selena. His voice cracked with the weight of desperation teetering on the edge of collapse. Selena didn't move. Colin frowned and stepped forward, shielding her. Henry's smile faltered. What's going on here? Sue, did you and Seal have a fight? He looked back and forth between them, unease rising in his gut. Jonathan's patience had already burned out. Once his breathing steadied, he began striding forward. With each step, his eyes grew colder, darker. Stopping in front of them, he stared down Colin with a look sharp as ice. Move. Colin didn't budge, even pulled Selena a bit closer behind him. Fury flickered visibly in Jonathan's eyes. Veins bulged at his temples as he tried to hold it back. Inhaling sharply, gripping control by a thread. Baby, I never agreed to break up. A collective gasp rippled through the crowd. Selena's nose stung. She could hardly believe what she was hearing. Are you insane? 5 years of dating, and the one who refused to acknowledge her publicly was him. The one who ran to greet Olivia, abandoning her time after time, was him. What right did he have to say this now? But Jonathan, blinded, saw no fault in himself. Am I insane, or are you? Have you forgotten what you said? You said you'd never marry anyone else but me. And now look at you, cheating? Backing out on your word? Enough. Henry finally realized something was very wrong. He shoved Jonathan aside, stepping protectively in front of Selena. His gaze, though aged, was razor-sharp with alarm. Sele, what is this? What's going on between you and your Uncle Jonathan? Selena's eyes skimmed over Jonathan's barely concealed hope, and she crushed it with a single sentence. What could it be? She said coldly, he took care of me for 5 years under your request. 5 years of being my uncle. What else could it be? Uncle? Jonathan's face darkened, and he grit his teeth, spitting every word out like a curse. Can an uncle roll around in bed with you? Get you pregnant? Hear you ask when will you marry me? Can an uncle? Smack! Selena's eyes filled with tears. Her hand trembled after the slap. She couldn't believe what he had just said. Couldn't believe he would humiliate her like that in front of everyone. Jonathan rubbed his burning cheek, head tilted slightly. Had enough? If you're done venting about Olivia, don't bother apologizing. Just come home with me. He ignored the gaping audience. In his eyes, there was only Selena, but Selena laughed. A cold, bitter laugh. Jonathan, how can someone be so shameless? She lifted her head, choking back her tears, and handed her phone to Colin. Would you mind casting this on the screen? The very first thing Selena had done after returning was gather evidence of Jonathan's cheating, of Olivia's sabotage. If Jonathan refused to end things peacefully, insisted on turning this into a public spectacle, then she didn't mind taking him down with her. If he wanted war, she'd give him one, even if it meant they'd never speak again. Chapter 16. The fire in Jonathan's eyes reignited. Fine, you didn't want to apologize. I let that go. But what now? Selena, bye? What more do you want? Selena didn't answer. She just looked at him coldly, silently, until Colin Yee returned her phone. It's ready. He handed the phone back to her, then turned to Jonathan, face taut, eyes calm but fierce, the kind of resolve that said, I'll protect her no matter what. The look made Jonathan laugh bitterly. Oh, look at you, the noble heir of the Yee family. Don't be so naive. She's just putting on a show for you. And you bought it? You really think she'd leave me and marry you? He sounded so certain, so smug. He thought he knew Selena, thought her 5 years of love guaranteed she'd never truly leave. But his arrogance lasted all of 1 minute. Because suddenly, the big screen in the hall lit up, flooded with rows of photos. Jonathan's mocking grin froze. Selena tilted her head slightly, her voice almost kind. Remember these? You and Olivia. She sent them to me before she came back to China. Thanks to her, I realized I'd spent 5 years being someone's pathetic stand-in. It's not what you think. Jonathan tried to explain, but Selena waved him off. Why the rush? There's more. She swiped a few more times on her laptop, and the images on screen changed again. Now it was a video, recorded right at their front door. The night Olivia had brought a drunken Jonathan home. They probably never imagined that there was a camera set up right at the entryway. The video was high definition, and the audio crystal clear. On screen, Olivia's smug face sneered with cruelty. You saw everything tonight, didn't you? Tell me, what do you really think you have that could keep him? That figure? That dead child? Or maybe, just that face? But a stand-in is still a stand-in. No matter how much you resemble me, his heart has always belonged to me. Jonathan's expression shifted dramatically, but Selena's smile only grew colder, sharper. Oh, we're just getting started. What? Can't take it already? She kept clicking. Up came photos of Jonathan claiming to be busy with work when he was actually vacationing with Olivia all over the country. Then there was the infamous video in the VIP room, the one where he and Olivia were lip to lip, feeding each other cherries like lovers, courtesy of Olivia herself, who had proudly sent it to Selena to show off. Selena had saved it without a word. Who needed private investigators when Olivia was so eager to document her own crimes? And finally, the surveillance footage from the club. Olivia thought she was clever, paying someone to destroy the nearest camera that night. But she'd been out of the country too long. She didn't know that particular club was practically wallpapered with surveillance. For just a small fee, Selena had obtained a crystal clear, full-angle video of everything. Olivia pulling her into the private room, her mocking expression, how she instantly started crying the second she spotted Jonathan. And when he carried her away, her smug little glance over his shoulder, eyes locking with Selena's, full of taunt and triumph. Every second captured. Later, Selena had handed everything to the police, in case Jonathan tried to gaslight her again, claimed she was being dramatic, and she added sweetly, "Oh, I heard this morning that the man from that night's already been caught. The police should be summoning Olivia soon. If you go now, you might still be able to help her." She meant it sincerely, but Jonathan's face had already gone deathly pale. What? What do you mean? His voice cracked. That night, the injuries on your body. Chapter 17. I've never been so low as to use something like that to keep a man. Selena's voice was calm, cutting. She had never been the type to lose herself over love. She loved freely, but she could walk away just as cleanly, especially when the man wasn't even worth it. For the first time in her life, she looked at someone she had once loved and felt nothing but contempt. Jonathan's hands trembled violently. Baby, no, it's not like that. I swear, me and her, we weren't what you think. Just what? Selena stepped forward, eyes gleaming with rage and sorrow. Just couldn't let go of your first love? So the day she came back, you had eyes only for her, forgetting everything you'd ever promised me? Was it when you left me alone in the outskirts that night so you could take care of her in the hospital? Or was it when you gave me a ring, but secretly wore a matching pair with her? Her voice sharpened with every word. Jonathan, do you remember what your friends said that night at the bar? A bitter smile tugged at her lips. They said your possessiveness toward Olivia hadn't changed in all these years. That the way you looked at her, you looked like you were drowning in her. They even said, only Olivia can make Jonathan act like that. So what about me? She snapped. What the hell was I? I stayed by your side for 5 years. What did all those years mean to you? Her voice cracked. Her lashes trembled with the effort to hold back tears. I tried to keep things dignified. I gave you up. Handed you over. So why the hell did you come back now? To ruin my life all over again? All those painful memories she had buried came surging up like a wave, dragging her under. Jonathan couldn't think. His mind kept replaying everything she'd just shown him, the photos, the videos, her wounds. Yes, he had cared for Olivia. He admitted he'd gone too far trying to protect her. But never had he thought about abandoning Selena. In every future he imagined, she was always there. Baby. I was wrong. I know I was wrong. He clenched his fists, his voice shaking on the verge of breaking down. I didn't realize how it all looked to you. Olivia told me she'd been struggling overseas, mentally unwell. The doctors said she couldn't handle stress. I was afraid she might do something drastic. I didn't mean to hurt you. Jonathan, who could charm boardrooms and manipulate contracts with ease, now found himself speechless, helpless. All he could see, 5 steps away, was the girl who used to light up every time he entered a room, who used to follow behind him calling Jonathan, "When are you going to marry me?" Now, her eyes were nothing but distant. Baby. He stepped forward, reaching for her, but Colin moved between them, blocking him. Jonathan frowned instinctively until Colin gave a low, contemptuous chuckle. How many 5 years does a woman have in her life? Colin said softly, but the words rang through the hall. She gave you her best years, and all you ever said was just wait a little longer. You refused to acknowledge her publicly, yet there are countless people out there who would be proud to show her off to the world. Mr. Sue, no one waits forever, especially not someone as extraordinary as Selena. She was never the one who couldn't live without you. The words were like knives, and Jonathan could feel the blood. Selena turned to look at Colin, and something inside her, something long tangled, quietly loosened. That's right. She had never been someone who needed anyone. Anyone could stand beneath the cherry blossom trees and be beautiful. It wasn't Jonathan who made the moment special. She was the one who made it special. So, Jonathan, there is no future for us. She enunciated every word clearly, final and cold. the closing line to everything they had ever been. Jonathan flinched. He opened his mouth to speak, but then a shout came from behind. Mr. Bai! Mr. Bai, are you okay? Call an ambulance. He's fainted! Chapter 18. Selena and Colin's wedding ended in chaos after Henry's sudden collapse. Jonathan never got to finish what he was trying to say. Before he left, the look Selena gave him was filled with nothing but hatred. And that expression, it left him uneasy. If Selena no longer loved him, if she truly hated him, how was he supposed to win her back? Selena couldn't even remember how she got to the hospital. She watched in a daze as Henry was wheeled into the emergency room. Her legs were like jelly. The walls of the hospital felt cold, suffocating. Even the air stung her lungs, blocked from going any further. Her mind spun in circles. It's my fault. It's all my fault. If I hadn't been with Jonathan Sue. If I had handled things better. If I hadn't. It's not your fault. Colin gripped her trembling hand. Selena looked up in shock and met his eyes, red, bloodshot. Even more than hers. Selena, you've done nothing wrong. You were the one who got hurt. From beginning to end, you were the victim. How could this be your fault? His voice trembled. His hands were warm. But Selena still felt cold, unbearably cold. She had already lost so much, she couldn't bear to lose her father too. Fortunately, heaven showed a shred of mercy. Henry was okay. Just a temporary fainting spell caused by emotional shock. The tension Selena had carried for hours finally began to loosen. But even as she sat by his bedside, watching him sleep, Jonathan's face kept invading her mind, the fury, the possessiveness, the humiliation. For the first time, she realized that man, the one she loved for 5 years, was disgusting. She had never really known him at all. Her fingers curled into the hospital sheets. Then, she looked down and met Henry's eyes. He was awake. Dad. Her throat caught. The words she wanted to say clung painfully behind her teeth. In the end, all she could manage was, I'm sorry. Sorry for disgracing him. Sorry he still had to worry about her at his age. And sorry, so sorry, that he had to see this ugly side of her life. With each I'm sorry, she bowed her head lower. By the end, her voice was hoarse, her face buried in the sheets, breathing in the sterile scent of the hospital linen. She couldn't stop. She didn't even dare look up. She was afraid that when she looked into her father's eyes, all she'd see was disappointment. But then, a soft sigh broke the silence. A large, familiar hand gently rested on her head. Silly girl, how is any of this your fault? Selena flinched. Just a little. She looked up and saw Henry's red eyes brimming with tears. Seal, don't always blame yourself. My daughter is a good child. The only person at fault here is the one who betrayed her love. The only thing I regret is misjudging that man, pushing you into the arms of a wolf. If I had known 5 years ago the one you liked was Jonathan, I would have broken his legs. Dad, Seal, I'm the one who let you down. Henry's vision blurred again. He had made countless decisions in his life, but never had he regretted one as much as the day he handed his most precious daughter over to that man. His eyes drifted to Selena's flat stomach, and another sharp pain stabbed through his chest. That child, how old would they have been now? Selena was stunned. It took her a moment to realize he was talking about the child she lost. Eyes red, she tilted her head back, forcing down the sob rising in her throat. If they'd been born, they'd be 3 now. Henry closed his eyes. He understood everything now. His baby girl, raised with such care, had been hurt far deeper than he'd ever known. He clenched his jaw and turned away in pain. But just then, the door burst open. Jonathan rushed in, disheveled and pale. Exhaustion etched across his face. But his eyes were steady, meeting Henry's gaze. He said with conviction, I will marry Selena Bai. After we marry, I'll protect her. I'll love her. I will never let her be hurt again. Chapter 19. Henry stared at the man he had once trusted like family. Now, he couldn't look at him the same way ever again. Get out, you bastard. He hurled everything within reach, a pillow, a cup, a vase, all smashing at Jonathan's feet. Jonathan didn't flinch. He stood there like he didn't feel pain, eyes unwavering, full of desperate resolve. I'll have Olivia taken care of. Seal, can you give me one last chance to make things right? But Selena didn't even glance at him. She focused solely on calming her father. gently picking up the scattered pillows, quietly cleaning the mess by the door. Not once did she spare Jonathan a single look. And it broke him. The fourth time Selena passed him, he finally lost control and grabbed her hand tightly. "Baby, do we really have to end like this?" His voice cracked, full of anguish. But Henry hurled another pillow straight at him. "I told you to get out. Did you not hear me? You had the audacity to bully my daughter for 5 years behind my back. You're lucky I haven't broken your damn legs yet." "Dad." Selena cut him off gently. Her eyes were red from crying, but her tone was calm, eerily so, as she placed the pillow back on the bed. "I'll handle it." Henry choked, swallowed hard, then stared down Jonathan one last time. This isn't over. Selena knew her father well. He'd find a way to settle this in his own style, but for now, this was her battle to fight. She walked to Jonathan with quiet resolve. "Baby." Jonathan's eyes lit up, hand reaching for her, only for her to step aside. "Mr. Sue, please conduct yourself with dignity." Her voice was ice. She didn't even want to call his name anymore. Jonathan's hand dropped helplessly, but the glimmer of hope in his eyes returned. As long as she was still willing to talk to him, it wasn't over yet. He clenched his fists, following her into the stairwell. 1,000 explanations fought their way up his throat. But before he could speak, Selena stepped aside and gave him a clear exit. "I don't want to fight in front of my father. This is the last time I'll speak to you civilly. Jonathan, if you have any shred of decency left, don't come near me again, or I will release every single thing you and Olivia have done to the public." Whatever hope remained crumbled to dust. Jonathan stared at her in disbelief. "Baby. I can explain. I swear, I never planned to get back with her. The only person I've ever wanted to marry is you." Selena looked at him coldly. "And? So what?" There was no love left in her eyes, not a drop. Jonathan's hands shook. Please, just give me a chance to make it up to you. Don't you remember what we said at our baby's grave? We promised, when we had our next child, he would come back to us. He'd be ours again. Baby, we're supposed to get married. We're supposed to grow old together." It was almost laughable that he still remembered those words. But what right did he have to say them now? Selena's gaze turned cutting. "Jonathan, if I were that child, I'd rather never be born than have a father like you. My child would be smart, he'd pick a better family. Better parents, not one where his father lies, cheats, and pretends to be a good man." She had already been merciful, but Jonathan looked panicked. He grabbed her hand like a man drowning. No, baby, please. We were together for 5 years. That's 1,825 days and nights. Doesn't that prove anything? Doesn't that prove my heart? Selena stared at him, voice like steel. "That's what I want to know too. Jonathan." Her voice rose with each word, fury bubbling at last. "Why was it that after 5 years, all it took was Olivia coming back for you to forget me, forget our child? Why did your friends say the way you looked at her, like you were drowning in her? Even if your heart was ice, I spent 5 years trying to warm it. Shouldn't it have thawed by now? Why? Jonathan? Why did I become nothing the second she came back? No, baby, no. It wasn't like that. Oh, so what was it? You were just tempted? Thought you could have us both? You figured I loved you so much I'd never leave, that even if you cheated, all you had to do was act pitiful, say a few sweet lies, and I'd come crawling back, begging to stay?" Jonathan froze. Selena scoffed, rage radiating off her in waves. "I loved you, Jonathan, but I'm not a fool, and I sure as hell don't keep trash." "I'm not trash!" Jonathan suddenly shouted, pupils trembling in disbelief. The silence that followed was deafening. Then, in a whisper, almost like a child who just realized he might be truly alone, he lowered his voice. "I'm not trash. I didn't sleep with her, I swear." He took a step toward her, pleading. Selena's scream tore through the corridor. "Get away from me! Don't touch me!" She meant it. Every time he spoke, every time he reached for her, she felt sick. He kept insisting nothing happened, but she wasn't blind. She'd seen the hickeys, the bruises, the lies. "Jonathan, I'm getting married. Save your filthy excuses for Olivia. I'm done. If you show up again, I'll expose everything. With that, she walked away without a single backward glance. Jonathan took a step to follow, but was suddenly blocked. A tall figure, sharp in posture and colder in tone, stepped between them. Colin Yee, his voice dripped with disdain. Mr. Sue, I tolerated you when my fiancée gave you a sliver of her time, but she's made herself more than clear. Keep chasing her now. And it's not just disrespectful, it's harassment. Chapter 20. Selena hadn't expected Colin to be in the stairwell. After Henry was transferred to a regular ward, Colin had said he needed to step out. She thought he'd gone home. Given everything that happened, she felt guilty, figured she didn't deserve more of his time. That he had stayed this long was already more than she could ask. But when Colin turned around, he simply raised a brow at her and held out his hand. Ready to go? His tone was casual, his eyes still carrying that familiar warmth. Jonathan's face twisted first. Your wedding doesn't count anymore. Says who? Colin shot him a look, no anger, just an unbothered lift of the brow. Selena and I met each other's parents. Both sides agreed to the engagement. You think it just gets cancelled because you say so? Who do you think you are? Just because you made a scene, we're supposed to call it quits? Come on, don't assume everyone's as selfish as you. Selena blinked. She had never seen Colin like this before, sharp, unrelenting. Until now, he had always seemed like a gentle young gentleman, but in just a few words, he had Jonathan's face flushing red. Unable to argue, Jonathan turned his eyes to Selena. Baby, come here, let's talk it out. It's all just a misunderstanding. Selena burst out laughing. A misunderstanding? Everything I saw, with my own eyes, was a misunderstanding? She didn't wait for a response. Instead, she took Colin's hand naturally and smiled up at him. Radiant. Let's go, fiancé. My dad's waiting for us. Colin's smile only widened, his ears burning red. Got it. No one noticed how tightly he held her hand or how his ears glowed all the way down the corridor. As the stairwell door shut, Jonathan Sue's world collapsed. His gaze was locked on their interlocked fingers, breathing ragged. Then, he pulled out his phone and made a call. Martin, I want a full report on Olivia's movements since she returned to China. Everyone she's seen, everything she's done. You've got 1 hour. Martin, as usual, was ready to haggle. Sure, but what's in it for me? You get the East City project. Deal. Gimme 30 minutes and you'll have a folder full of dirt. Outside the stairwell, Selena didn't let go until they returned to the hospital room. Then, she released his hand awkwardly. Sorry for dragging your whole family name through the mud and for using you as a shield. She gave a weak smile. Colin, however, stared at his hand like it was made of gold. When Selena looked up, he finally blinked and turned away. Don't worry about it. Besides, you're going to be my wife someday. If I can't even protect my wife, what kind of man would I be? Selena stared at him, stunned. Wife? Of course. He flashed her a grin and wiggled the boutonniere still pinned to his chest. Selena, you agreed to marry me. No take-backs. He said it like it was the most natural thing in the world, as if the chaos and heartbreak meant nothing to him. Her lashes fluttered. She couldn't meet his eyes. But Colin took her hand again, firm but gentle. Are you scared? Scared I'll turn out like him? It's okay. I get it. He didn't let her finish. Instead, he took out his phone and started typing. Selena stood there frozen, fingers digging into her palm, just trying to keep up. She had only just found words when Colin turned the screen toward her. Will this make you feel better? On his screen was a message thread with his lawyer. In the event of divorce, I agree to leave the marriage with nothing. All assets transfer to my wife. Selena's pupils shook. He just handed over his entire fortune in minutes. Why? Why would he do this? Colin, why me? With a background like his, he could have any number of women better than her in status, family, anything. So why choose her? Because it could only ever be you. His smile was open and honest. His eyes, those clear, luminous eyes, reminded her of the way she used to look at Jonathan. Full of warmth, full of hope. Selena. His tone softened, but the seriousness in it rang deep. I've waited so long. I already gave up once. This time, I'm not letting go. Chapter 21. Colin's last words had come out of nowhere. Even after he left, Selena was still mulling them over. But Henry, who had watched the whole exchange, didn't seem the least bit surprised. That kid's still the same. Just wish he'd been braver back then. If you two had gotten together earlier, there wouldn't have been that bastard Jonathan in the picture. As he spoke, his eyes reddened again. Selena, meanwhile, was increasingly confused. Wait, you're saying I knew him before? Of course you did. You used to shout that you were going to marry him. Forgot that already? The first thing he did after taking over the Yi family business was move everything back from abroad, just to marry you. Otherwise, I wouldn't have handed you over to him so easily. Henry seemed almost cheerful recalling the past. He held onto her hand and talked for the rest of the afternoon. It was only then that Selena realized her childhood playmate, the chubby little boy she used to call Little Chub, had grown into a stunning man who looked like he'd walked off a movie set. No wonder she hadn't recognized him. Back then, she had been 7, and Colin was 9. He was nothing like the man he was today. He'd weighed at least 110 pounds, wore thick black-rimmed glasses, and his eyes would squint to slits when he smiled. His teeth whistled when he talked. His mother had recently passed away, and his father had quickly remarried a woman who came with a 3 years older son of her own. Even though Colin was the only heir of the Yi family, at home he was treated worse than the housekeeper's kid. His stepmother didn't care about his studies, she just shooed him out the door every day. The day Selena met him, it had been pouring. The Yi family had gone to attend a wedding, leaving him all alone at home, with even the servants off duty. Hungry and desperate, he climbed over to the Bai family's yard to try and pick a peach from their tree. He didn't get the fruit. Instead, he broke a branch. Selena cried the entire day. 9-year-old Colin trailed behind her apologizing for hours, until he finally passed out from hunger. The Bai family had rushed him to the hospital. When he woke up, the first thing he did was say sorry. Selena remembered it clearly, him looking up at her with tear-filled eyes and saying, "Little sister, I'm sorry. I didn't mean to. Please don't tell my dad, okay? I'll buy you a new peach to make up for it." When he lifted his sleeve, his arm was covered in bruises. It was then that the abuse in the Yi family came to light. At the time, Selena didn't understand the adult politics. Her parents looked visibly pained, but she just rolled up her sleeves like a little boss. "Don't worry. I'll protect you from now on. I won't let anyone bully you again." And so, from that day on, the North Bay bully went from being one person to 2. Selena dragged him all over the place, fiercely protective like a little hen, parading him around in front of every kid who had ever mocked him. She wanted the whole world to know that chubby Yi kid was hers to protect. That protection lasted 3 years. Then, when the Yi family shifted its operations overseas, Colin had to leave. From then on, Selena lost contact with him completely. She had even tried to find him later on, but failed every time. She had assumed that he'd lost the fight against his stepmother and stepbrother, and that was the end of it. Fate is strange. Sure is. Henry sighed. But when he talked about Colin, his eyes were full of admiration. That boy's tough. Who'd have thought the Yi family's spoiled little prince, the one everyone assumed was useless, was quietly building his strength abroad? Then one day, just like that, he took over the whole company in a single move. And even more surprising, a man with that kind of ruthlessness is a romantic at heart. Selena had a sinking feeling. Sure enough, Henry circled the conversation back to her. "He came back 3 years ago. I gave him your address, thinking he'd win you back with that face of his. But who knew he'd slink back overseas without a word?" Then Yi Corp changed hands the same year. He started shifting all operations back home, and the first thing he did after things stabilized was show up at my door to propose. He was clearly watching her expression as he spoke. Selena didn't know how to respond. Just as she opened her mouth, the hospital room door creaked open again. Colin was back. He was slightly out of breath, must have run back, and immediately handed her a document. "I drafted it. Take a look, if everything checks out. Just sign." "Oh, and this, I asked the lawyer to add a property transfer agreement. Once we're married, you'll get 5% of Yi Corp." Selena, I know words won't reassure you. I could say I'll never cheat or betray you, but those are just promises. Money doesn't lie. Written contracts don't change. Would this help you feel safer? Chapter 22. Colin's words were sincere, his eyes burning with a warmth that could melt stone. In that moment, it felt like if Selena reached out her hand, he'd offer up his whole heart without hesitation. Years later, when Selena looked back on that day, she would still remember how the setting sun burned red, casting its light into Colin's eyes, those pure, unwavering eyes that, from beginning to end, saw no one but her. Then, let's give it a try. That was her answer to Colin, and to herself. Selena had never been the type to be bound by convention. Nor was she the kind to retreat after one heartbreak. She told Colin to restart the wedding plans. They set the date for the 6th day of the next month. This time, it wasn't just Colin preparing alone. Selena hoped this would be her first and last wedding. She poured her heart into it, and through it all, Colin stayed by her side. One day, while organizing some furniture, Selena stumbled upon a box filled with letters Colin had written her over the years. Letters he never sent. Each one began with, "To Sele, may this letter find you well," and ended with, "May you live long and healthy." Every word between them was about her. There was also a huge box full of gifts, birthday presents, holiday keepsakes, little souvenirs, one for every year since they had parted ways. Kept safe and untouched until now. Selena had never imagined that, in some hidden corner of the world, someone had been thinking of her with such persistence, praying for her health while she'd been giving her all to someone undeserving. That night, she cried for a long time. The next morning, her eyes were swollen. Colin had to coax her for hours. And if life could always be like that, it wouldn't be so bad. But then there was Jonathan. Ever since that day at the hospital, he acted as if he no longer understood human language. He camped out below her apartment daily, just to beg for a chance to explain himself. Selena once actually gave in and agreed to listen. He couldn't get out a single coherent sentence. Eventually, sick of his pestering, Selena publicly released all the evidence of his cheating and his past with Olivia. That day, the internet exploded. Jonathan and Olivia topped every trending search. Soon, Olivia's entire history was dug up, from working as a mistress overseas for wealthy men, to being exposed as double-dealing by a group of rich playboys, who then beat her up and made it impossible for her to stay abroad. As for Jonathan Sue, he became the internet's favorite joke, a human trash bin. Netizens called him, "Passed up a high-class heiress for used goods? What's wrong with this guy?" Sue Group's stock plummeted that day. Jonathan? He didn't even blink. He knelt outside the Bai estate in the pouring rain. "Sele, as long as it makes you feel better, I'll do anything." Selena took it as a joke. Her father and Colin didn't. The Bai and Yi families joined forces. And while Jonathan's attention was elsewhere, they poached key tech talent from Sue Group, nearly hollowing it out. Still, Jonathan didn't care. He kept kneeling at the Bai gate, begging for Selena's return. After several days without rest, he looked no better than a homeless man. Selena couldn't stand the sight of him, so she took Colin's hand, and they left for a honeymoon wedding tour. Just the two of them, from city to city, country to country, and for the first time in a long, long while, Selena could finally breathe. Chapter 23. Colin Yi indulged her completely. He took her on a once-in-a-lifetime journey around the world, and for the first time in her life, Selena discovered a life not orbiting around Jonathan Sue was a life more joyful than she ever imagined. During this global honeymoon, at every stop they made, she and Colin took pictures together and posted them online. She didn't block Jonathan. She wanted him to see just how well she was living without him. In the beginning, Jonathan would still leave comments beneath her posts. Always the same sentence, over and over again. "I'll always wait for you. All you have to do is look back." But after waves of mockery from righteous netizens, even those stopped appearing. Eventually, Selena almost forgot someone like Jonathan had ever existed in her life, until the day before they returned home. When she glanced at the trending topics, #Sue Group CEO dies after ex-lover Olivia stabs him 32 times outside by family estate. She and Colin had spent the entire day out having fun, about to compile photos for a new post when the headline hit. In that moment, her mind went blank. Moments later, her father Henry called. Sele. Jonathan is gone. Okay. She casually scrolled her screen, accidentally clicking on a tagged video. The footage, pixelated and censored, was graphic and violent. She backed out instantly, and strangely, she didn't feel pain. There was no sorrow, no pity, not even the sympathy one might have for a stranger. All she felt was, he deserved it. He'd once said, anyone who betrays true love deserves to swallow 10,000 needles. In the end, perhaps this wasn't much different. Before she could think any further, the door suddenly burst open. Sele. Colin rushed in, sweat beading on his brow, eyes brimming with panic. Selena noticed the glowing screen in his hand. It showed the same news article she had just seen. He said nothing at first, his mouth opening and closing, unsure what to say. His eyes dimmed as he lowered his head, like a kicked puppy full of worry. Sele, are you okay? He must have been afraid. Afraid she'd be heartbroken. Afraid she'd grieve for Jonathan. But what was there to grieve? What could possibly be wrong with me? Selena smiled, turned off her phone, and walked to his side. She took his hand, her grip steady. Didn't we book that shoot with the famous photographer tonight? If we're late, he might get mad. Her eyes shone with clarity and conviction. This time, it was Colin's turn to be stunned. You saw the news. Of course I did. So what? She had once been in a bad relationship, with someone undeserving. He died. So what? Was she supposed to mourn him? Live in grief? Colin, that's all in the past. Now, I just want to move forward, with you, toward a brand new life. With the glow of sunset burning red across the sky, Selena stepped ahead, undaunted, unshaken, unstoppable. The stains of the past would never define her, because she was the best version of Selena.